Good evening. I'd like to call the July 22nd, 2025 Methacton School District Board of Directors meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. The public is hereby advised of the audio and video recording of this meeting for the purposes of rebroadcasting. All board members are present, so next we'll go to guest and scheduled speakers. Dr. Zerbe.
Madam President, I think that we have an executive session announcement, two executive session announcements to make before we move on to guests and scheduled speakers.
I do apologize. The Board of School Directors met virtually in executive session on July 7th and on July 15th for the purpose of discussing contract matters regarding one of the collective bargaining groups in the district. The Board of School Directors met in executive session immediately prior to tonight's meeting here at Methacton High School for the purposes of discussing matters of personnel involving the evaluation of administrative employees. Thank you.
And now for guests and scheduled speakers this evening, we have Devin Bradbury and Josh from the Schrader Group to give us an update on the Methacton High School renovation planning. Members of the board, you should have a copy of the presentation at your table, and we'll be putting up the presentation up on the screen behind us. Devin and Josh.
Okay, good evening. We'll be, I think, brief tonight. We have just a couple slides to give you just a general update on the renovation feasibility study. Devin is going to go through a couple of the preliminary concepts and what they include. So we will have a visual presentation of those concepts at the August 19th work session. I know that I'm sure you guys are very anxious to see some of the visual concepts that are still coming together. Following that, on September 9th at the Property Committee, there'll be another general update. We can talk a little bit more about some of the concepts that you guys had seen at the 19th. And then on September 16th would be the presentation of those final concepts. If you recall from last meeting, we also were going to have a separate meeting related to the natatorium and how the construction of a new natatorium has been incorporated so far into the concept designs and what that really means with phasing and some other matters within the building. So that'll be a separate meeting on the 23rd to proceed in that direction. And then on October 28th would be the vote once that final feasibility study is completed in terms of the options, the budgets for each one, what the impacts would be on phasing and curriculum throughout the school years where the project would be taking place. Then the board would provide us with the direction on which option is chosen. Okay. So that's kind of the general path moving forward. I will turn it over to Devin to go through some of the concept ideas and what's incorporated with each iteration of that.
Thank you, Josh. Good evening, everyone, and happy summer. I know everyone is eager to see more than just words on the screen, so we're almost there. Next meeting, as Josh mentioned, we will start to show some visual concepts. But for now, if we can go to the next slide, we have just a brief summary of what we're looking at as a team at the moment. We are developing 4 options based on the board prioritization list that has been done in months previous. So we'll kind of go through all of those just in a general idea, just to give everyone a sense of what's happening kind of behind the scenes. So just so everyone knows, all of the options are going to include the baseline upgrades, which we've outlined previously. Those include the building envelope upgrades. That includes roof, windows, things like masonry repairs that were identified in prior reports. All of the MEP systems, the HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, all of those systems that are coming towards the end of their lifespan will be upgraded as part of the baseline upgrades. And then we talk about safety, security, and ADA. That's bringing the building up to code based on what we've seen throughout the reports and through our walkthroughs. So we're getting the building warm, dry, and safe with all of those baseline upgrades. And again, those are included throughout all 4 of the options we're looking at. The options are being evaluated for cost, constructability, phasing, and then educational impacts. So you'll have some cost numbers. You'll see some phasing plans of how some of these ideas might come together on a site. We know we have occupied building to work through, so it will kind of determine how we're going to move through the building based on all of these options. You might have some pros and cons based on the phasing. And then separately and simultaneously, we are looking at site options. So the site options we're looking at are to improve some of the circulation and parking. They're not necessarily tied to any of the options, but there are going to be different options of different impacts for the site, depending on how much you want to do throughout the site improvements. So they're being shown, they will be shown in conjunction with the building options, but they're not necessarily tied to any specific option. Next slide, please. So what are our 4 options? Essentially, we have 2 options, and each one has a 1A or an A and a B. So option 1A will address all of these priority items that we're showing here. So some of the priority 1 items include improving traffic flow, parking capacity, providing a new pool, fitness and wellness center, and a life skills apartment. All of those items were in the priority group 1 that was voted on by the board. The Fab Lab is also included because if we are to build a new pool, we have some space to include for additional programming where the existing pool is. So we can bring some of those priority 2 items, which is what the Fab Lab was one of those, up into to utilize some of that space. So all those items are included in option 1A. As you can imagine, it's mostly a renovation option, except for that new pool is the only new construction that we're looking at. 1B addresses everything that's included in option 1A. Plus, it's also looking at adding a common space to enable a lunch and learn. And when I say adding, it's really renovating a space inside the building to accommodate a space like for a commons purpose. So it's not an additional new construction piece. It's a renovation piece that would allow us to do a lunch and learn program in the school. We're also looking at some priority 2 items, bringing up into that option 1B. That would be standardizing the classroom sizes. Essentially, that's some of the second floor in the West Wing. We had smaller classrooms over there. Those were identified as critical to get up to a regular size classroom. So we're doing that in option 1B. And then improvements to the performing arts spaces. That would be renovating the existing auditorium and some of the performing arts spaces attached to that. So again, 1B, 1A are both highly renovation options with a little bit of an addition, new construction for the pool. Option 2 then brings in a little bit more. So option 2A addresses everything. Again, we're addressing all the priorities that we mentioned before in option 1A and 1B, and then we're adding to it. We're adding, in this case, the final priority 1 item, which was improvements to the internal circulation, all the traffic flow inside the building, the hallway congestion, all of our transition times. We're trying to get a lot of those priority items into this. And the only way to do that, unfortunately, is some new construction. So we're going to be looking at building a new auditorium with option 2A. As you can imagine, if we eliminate the length of that west wing and bring everything a little bit closer to the building, it's going to improve some of the circulation within the building. So option 2A includes eliminating part of the building and bringing some of those spaces a little bit closer to improve some of the circulation that were identified previously. Option 2B also addresses everything that's included in 1A and 1B, and then in 2A, but it does it in a little bit different way. We think there's some different layouts that we can look at for each of the new construction options that might improve things a little bit further. So we might look at different configurations of where things might be to kind of help some of that internal circulation a little bit more, maybe get some program pieces in better locations to improve the educational impact. So that's kind of a very brief outline of all these 4 options. Again, we're looking at costs, we're looking at phasing for all of these, and we're looking at educational impact for all of this. So at the next meeting, it's going to be a lot to show all at one time, but we will show all of these options in some visual form I'm not sure we'll have some definite costs at that point, but we'll have some ideas of what the scale of each of those is going to be. And then lastly, we have a township meeting scheduled for next week. As you can imagine, with all of these options, there's going to be some various site configurations that we have to work through with the township. So we're going to try to bring up all of these options in a very generic form with the township, just to get some feedback to see if there's any hurdles we need to go through with any of these options that might impact phasing or costs with those. And additionally, we talked about the pool already. If there's an opportunity to bring the pool up forward as a early bid package item, we want to see what that's going to entail with the township to get that through, to get that out to bid a little bit earlier, if that's the goal of the district. So a lot is in motion behind the scenes. We wish we could show you all these nice fly-throughs and visuals, but we're not quite there yet, but it is right around the corner. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions from members of the board for our professionals? Yes, Ms. Purdue?
Thank you. I just have two quick ones. In reference to the township meeting, is it for Lower Providence and Worcester, or which township?
Just Worcester.
Just Worcester, okay. And then just for the options you mentioned with 1B, the standardized classroom size, maybe I missed that. Why is that considered like an addition instead of like something that will be, I kind of picture it will be in 1A, so.
So it was identified as a group 2 on the priority list. So we didn't do that as part of the renovations. It would require a reconfiguration of space, so a little bit heavier on the cost side in the renovations. So we put that into a 1B instead of a 1A because it was in that priority 2. Now, could you move it back up? Sure. It's a lower impact item.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And if I could, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the priorities of 1A was to identify the least cost option, and likely 1A will be that one, given the priorities we put into it.
Correct.
Other questions? Ms. Steele?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for this. Two questions. First, on which one of these days will we be voting on the options? Are we voting on any of the options in any of these days? The vote on high school renovation, is that to choose between 1A, 1B, 1C, D, 2A? Does that make sense?
So I guess the intention is to present this a little bit early so that you have time to digest everything.
Yep.
And then we pushed it back until October
That
so that you
October
have a full
28th.
month to have any questions answered and really fully understand what the concepts
So-
are. So that
so-
would be October.
So that would be October 28th to vote on the option. And in the presentations up to October 28th, will any of them include, which maybe not, because it might be too early, the impact on the student body, like which if a wing has to be closed or knocked down or moved or modules, will any of that be included in those presentations before choosing the options?
Yes, so you'll have, that's when I talked about phasing. So you'll have a high level understanding of where things need to move and how construction progresses through the site and throughout the construction timeline. So you will have that information in a high level view, but you should be able to see how that unfolds.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Ms. Alston?
Hi, thank you. So just a question, like the 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, it doesn't quite match the priorities, or it does?
So it does. So we had to mix a little bit of assumptions here. So 1A includes all of the priority ones except for the Commons and the Lunch and Learn program and the internal traffic flow. So those are a little bit higher cost items that we had to bring down to option
Okay,
1B
so
and 2A.
they're the priorities, but organized in a kind of more practical way
Correct.
for
Yes,
implementation.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you come back next time, could you also just bring a slide that reminds us of what the board priorities were, just
Absolutely.
as they were, just so we can all remember
Sure.
how we prioritize the items?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions to my left, to my right? Mr. Winters?
Yeah, just real quick, when you come back next month, you said you're working on the numbers. Are we going to be able to dissect, for example, you have the standardized classroom, which we put in a second second phase or second priority, and you said it's more costly. Are we going to be able to identify that separately in section 1B and say that may be something that we may have to reconsider as a priority?
We can have specific breakdowns for certain scopes of work. It would be helpful if the board could give us some feedback ahead of time so we know how to properly categorize. It's going to be tough under each option to have to understand the level of detail for each pocket of the building, if that makes sense. So if we can have an idea of what programs or what spaces you guys might be looking for some more specific breakdown for, that would be very helpful ahead of time. But yeah, we can certainly provide a deeper breakdown of those types of areas.
I think that
Yeah,
I understand why you-
So here's what I think I need to do. I need to do some homework with some members of the. Well, first I'll start with the property chair and have a conversation about how the we need to be able to dissect the cost out there. So we'll do that, and I'll get back to the board. If we need additional input, we'll gather that, and then we'll be prepared to share that with Josh, because I know exactly what you're asking. And we got to be more definitive in what we're going to be presenting at that time. So good question. You have any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm a couple of things. One, I totally agree with Mr. Winters that we probably should take the prioritization list that we had and maybe assign values per prioritization item. I think we have to think about that a little bit. It may be a little too granular because it may be important for the board to move one of those priority items up the list and add to one of, anyway. I think we have to think about that. My other question is, on September 16th, you're going to be coming to the work session with the final concepts for the high school. So we're going to see the 4 concepts. At that time, is that the first time we're going to be seeing costs? Because I also thought I heard that August 19th, with the visual presentation, there may be some cost information. So I just want to make sure we're setting expectations clearly.
Yes, there can be some preliminary cost information in the August timeframe. It's going to continually be updated and refined throughout the process. So we can at least share preliminary higher, level numbers. And then for the following 2 meetings, drill down a little bit further. But it like I said, it'll be a continual work in progress until we get to that September, October timeframe.
So just to clarify, when we see preliminary numbers in August, then at the work session in September, you're going to give us the concepts in sort of a final form. That's when we're going to see the real numbers. That's when we're going to see
there's
the
still
numbers
estimates.
that we
There's
would
still
be
concept-
budgeting for future
There's still
borrowing
concept
purposes.
estimates, yes.
But we would see when I say real numbers, I mean they're much more firm numbers than we saw in August. Is that?
Yes.
And a month later, then we'll be voting on those numbers.
That's right. So even from September to October, if there's any adjustments required, if there's any feedback from the board, if there's some adjustments like you guys are talking about, well, maybe we can figure incorporating something from 2A into 1B or however it might work, we'll continually update those estimates.
So if we did that in September at the work session, you would come back to us in October at the work session and present those updated concepts with updated costs, and then we'd be voting the next week.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So then my other question is, I see September 23rd vote on the pool. When do we see the pool costs?
We can share those in the August timeframe as well.
So next month in the work session, you're going to bring us the breakout of the pool project and the pool costs.
We can have the pool comparison costs at the August 19th meeting. Yes.
Okay. And then we have basically a month to consider that, evaluate the options, and then vote.
Yes.
Okay.
So based on some of the questions that you have, Ms. Graff, I think what I'm going to do with the team is we're going to take this timeline as broad as it is right now and put some definitive deliverables in so that we're all on the same page and make sure that it sequences properly to allow us enough time to make the proper decisions.
Yeah, my concern, I guess, is that if we're walking into a work session and we haven't had the presentation information at least a week in advance, the board is going to struggle with reviewing the information in real time, asking enough questions, making requests for changes, and then those changes are going to take 2 or 3 weeks to come back to us, and then we're going to have to make a decision. I think we're getting crunched on the sort of change modification piece. And I also think we're going to need some time with the numbers, because I think it's going to be, if we want to do some horse trading, we need to know what the numbers are and what that means, and then see if we can rework what we want into the design.
That makes sense. Let us, we will add the detail in terms of the deliverables to this timeline if it seems reasonable and most appropriate. Pushing this out to November might not be a bad idea either, so that we have enough space to make the proper decision. So
Right.
we'll certainly take a look at it. We'll be back in a memo to the board earlier than any of these meeting dates with an update.
And I think that's fine. I mean, the other thing I would suggest is, could we have an updated schedule to review in property in August? I mean, that would be an optimum time to sort of take a look at that schedule and see if we're okay with all the detail. Thanks.
Any other questions for our design team? Ms. Cleary?
Not a question, but I just want to echo what Kate was saying in terms of the timeline, because when I look at this timeline, I start to feel a little stressed for the whole board in terms of seeing what you guys present. And then if we do need to make changes, coming to grips with what that's going to cost, how that's going to affect, to Ms. Thiel's point, that, impact the kids. It just feels really rushed. And I liked when you just said, perhaps maybe going to November, as long as you have it built in case things don't go this smoothly. Things would have to go pretty smoothly, I think, on this timeline.
Understand. Yep. No, thank you for that feedback. So that is the plan, to get you an updated, more timeline deliverable than what we have here. And if we think as a team that it makes sense to extend it, we certainly need to do that. The other option, just so the board's aware, we could also hold a special meeting on the matter, just for information purposes, certainly not to vote on anything of any great magnitude, but we certainly can have more meetings to address questions that you might have.
So I think that's a great idea. And I guess my question to the team is, can we back the September 16th presentation of the final high school concepts up to maybe do a special meeting the first week in September instead? Then you come to the work session in September 16th. We've seen the concepts. We have had time to digest the information around the pricing and the concepts, and we can actually have conversation during that meeting. I mean, is that a doable timeline? I'm going to let you think about it. I'm not going to make you ansanswer tonight.
That's a great suggestion.
we could,
We'll take that to the table and see how we can best,
Yeah.
because it's not always about stretching it out. It's about giving the steps along the way.
Right,
Yeah.
like insert something between, August 19th and September 16th, closer to the 16th, that would give us a couple of, say, a week in advance of the work session that you would have a special meeting presentation. So that would be my request. You guys can think about it and let us know if that's doable.
Any other comments, Ms. Cancro?
No, with all the timelines, I do think it's important for us to just inform the public and the community on this. So just so that people were involved in it. So just being able to either do a postcard, reach out, email, I think it's important to share.
Thank you. We'll certainly would do that. Any other comments on the presentation? Anything else from the
Just
team?
to
Go ahead.
clarify Ms. Graff's request, with that interim meeting, would you still request that information to be provided a week prior to that presentation?
No, I would probably give you a little leeway on that week
Okay.
prior.
Because, all right,
Because I think if you present it to us for the first time, say September 10th or September 11th, you present it to us for the first time, I think it's fine for us to see it that first time with you walking us through it. but then we have a week to process, evaluate, think about it, dig
Sure.
into it a little bit before the work session, which you'll be back so we could ask a bunch of questions. at
Okay,
that
so
time, too.
do I understand that, are you saying that the August 19th meeting, you would move that one back to the September? Because the August 19th is really when the intent was to kind of show you guys visually what those concepts look like. And it almost sounds like that's what you're requesting prior to
So
September 16th.
my request is that we see the final high school concepts sooner than September 16th in order to vote on them in the end of August, October, or November even. I think we need more time between seeing the final concept and the vote. So one way to keep the vote, say, end of October or even November, would be to move that September 16th date back. So show them to us a week earlier is my request.
Okay, we will speak with Devin and his team and see what we can do.
Thank you, everyone, for your feedback on that. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation this evening. And I know we meet as a team, I believe, tomorrow, so we'll get working on those particular requests. So thank you very much. That ends the guests and scheduled speakers for this evening.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll now move to reports from the MCI this month. Mrs. Purdue.
Thank you very much. It was business as usual at the MCIU where for June, we had election of new board members and re-election of current board members for their terms. And then also the MCIU voted on board officers for president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. The MCIU also updated their goals to align with their comprehensive plan, just based on some of the things that they were able to achieve last year, including opening the Discovery Center, starting the Envision program and Pathways to Empowerment Facility, and also the Youth Development Center. And then they provided updates on some federal funding that they were waiting for that they finally were able to receive. Some of that to support Project Aware and also Head Start programs for their upcoming school year. One of the items I wanted to highlight was just on some of the legislative updates that was provided. So this is from June. The MCIU actually would not meet in July. Their next meeting will be in August. But there were 3 bills that passed the Pennsylvania House and are now going to be referred to the Senate Education Committee. But one of them is in reference to to amend the PA Public School Code and certification of teachers, providing for state certificate and a reduction of fee and for professional education fees. Another one was in reference to streamlining the administrative requirements in reference to collecting information on student transportation laws. And then there was the third one in providing transparency and accountability for PA cyber charter schools and reform on how cyber school charter education is funded through the Commonwealth. And then the final one that I wanted to highlight was in reference to the adjustment of minimum wage across Pennsylvania counties and introducing mechanisms for the annual cost of living for the PA state. So that one passed the House and will be referred to the Senate and Labor Industry Committee. And I will provide an update based on how the meeting is. I may have an update for July just because we just got the new calendar for the next school year meetings. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to North Monco, Ms. Alston and Mr. Mursky.
North Monco did not meet in July. Our next meeting is August 18th.
Okay, fantastic. Communications and Foundation will be updated next month. And next to the superintendent report, Dr. Zerby.
Thank you. For this month, we have the monthly right to know report, and then we have 2 advisements, including the list of tenured employees as attached. That ends my report.
All right, great. We'll now move to public comment on board action items. The board will now take comments on board action items. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters that are to be decided upon as outlined on the agenda. The board asks that you keep your comments at 3 minutes or less. The Board of School Directors may choose to respond to matters following the conclusion of the comments on board action items.
Jim Montlick, Worcester. I'm talking about 9E, the bond resolution. There's a discrepancy between the agenda description and the actual resolution. In the agenda, it says you're doing this for repairs, upgrades, or new construction to the high school. It's not what your resolution says. Your resolution says for the purpose of providing funds for capital projects of the school district. So which one is it? I probably think the agenda is in error, but if it's not, then there's a discrepancy. It's got to be straightened out. What capital projects are you talking about in your resolution? It says, oh, we need 15 million for some capital projects. Like what? You want to tell us what you're going to spend 15 million on? Or is it like just pull a number out of the air? What are the costs associated with the borrowing? Legal, clerical, accounting, PFM fees? Nothing. Don't we get to know how much this borrowing is going to cost? What's the interest payment or the interest cost on 15 million? It's like 20. This is 35. It's not 15. It's 15 plus 20 in interest. It's $35 million. So tell us what you want to spend $35 million on. Capital project doesn't tell me anything, and it doesn't agree with what your agenda is. Your special ed hiring you're going to do for $760 a day. Can you explain what the need for this is? This person, $760 a day? You know, will this be an added expense or is this going to save us money? No explanation. I don't know what's going on with this. Doesn't make sense. I say no until we get a presentation on the special ed budget debacle. I wouldn't do any of this stuff until you figure out why you were so far off in your budgetary projections. $1 million to almost $3 million over a 4-year period of time. And you're spending more money on special ed and you haven't even come to us and told us why you were in such a deficit situation, why you underestimated what you were going to spend. And they're going to spend more money. You don't spend any more money until you tell us why you didn't pick up the situation where you missed it. When are we going to get the presentation on special ed and the special ed budget debacle? Can you tell us? I've been asking for it. Don't you think you need to explain it to us? You took the special ed exception and raised our taxes 4.4%. So tell us what's going on with your special ed and how you're budgeting, because I think you got a real problem.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now move to board meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the June 17th, 2025 work session and the June 24th regular board meeting minutes as attached? Ms. Cleary, may I have a second? Ms. Purdue? All right, any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. We'll now move on to fiscal items.
On the agenda this evening, we have student activity accounts to approve the closure of student activity account for the class of 2025, with the remaining funds to be distributed in accordance with policy 618 of the board. And item 2 is approve the creation of student activity account for the class of 2029. We also have under 9E, the bond resolution 2504, which says approve resolution 2504 as prepared by bond counsel, authorizing the issuance of one or more series of general obligation bonds in the amount necessary to fund an approximate $15 million deposit to the project fund for repairs, upgrades, and new construction or new construction to the high school and other projects associated with the facilities master plan as prepared by, as approved by the board and to pay the cost of issuance. And if you recall, those particular items were addressed in last month's board meeting where Dr. Sorgini presented a 3-year capital improvements plan in the absence of the revised 10-year plan that we've been discussing and working towards with our owner's rep CHA. And that included a total spend in the 3 years of about $11 million, which included items at Worcester Elementary School for roof replacement. It included Skyview Arcola roof replacements. It included potential facade repairs. It included a tennis court resurfacing at the high school. It included a district-wide for bollards across the district. It included asphalt repair for Eagleville, chiller repair for Eagleville, and a generator replacement for Eagleville, among other things regarding transportation and the sewer plant upgrades. In all, we were thinking that of estimates in 2026, it'd cost us an estimate of $5.5 million, in 2027 about $4.3 million, and in 2028 about $1.1 million. And that's absent of anything that we decide to do with the renovation of the high school. In terms of agreements, there are two listed here to approve the settlement agreement on parcel number 43-00048331-556 as prepared by the district solicitor. We also have approved the settlement agreement for parcel number 43-00035555-09-2 as prepared by the district solicitor. And then under 9G, we have a list of meal prices for the 25-26 school year. And please take note to the reference on the motion. It would be to approve the Methacton School District student and adult meal prices for the 2025, and then it should say 2026 school year as listed. Then it goes on to talk about the 8 items. It's an approved breakfast meal price of $1.65 and lunch meal price of $3.05 for Arrowhead, Eagleville, Woodland, Worcester schools. This reflects a 10% increase from the 24-25 school year to take effective the 25-26 school year. The second item is approved the school breakfast meal price of $2.30 and lunch price of $3.35 for Skyview and Arcola. That's a 10% increase from the 24-25 school year. Number 3 is to approve the school breakfast meal price. I'm sorry,
Cents. It's cents, not percentage.
10 cents. That's correct. Did I say that twice? 10%?
You did.
Okay. So let the record reflect as 10 cents, not 10%. And then on number 3, approve the breakfast meal price of $3, lunch price of $3.75 for Methacton High School. This reflects a 15 cent increase for breakfast and a 25-cent increase for lunch from the 24-25 school year. Item 4 is to approve the premium meal prices of $4.75 for Methacton High School. This reflects the 25-cent increase from the 24-25 school year. Approve the adult meal price at Arrowhead, Eagleville, Woodland, and Worcester Elementary School as follows. Breakfast is $2.95, an increase of 15 cents. Adult meal price of $4.85. That's an increase of 65 cents. And that's 65 cents more than the 24-25 school year. Approve the adult meal price at Skyview Upper Elementary School and Arcola Intermediate School as followed. Breakfast meal price of $3.45 and adult lunch price of $4.85. This reflects a 35-cent increase in lunch. Number 7 is approve the adult meal price at Methacton High School as follows. Breakfast meal at $4.50, adult lunch meal price of $5. This reflects a 25-cent increase in breakfast and lunch. And the last one is approve the adult premium meal price at Methacton High School of $6. This reflects an increase of 25 cents from the 24-25 school year. That was a lot.
Thank you.
Probably should have just said, read that for yourself. Be done with it.
Well, we appreciate your thoroughness. So may I have a motion to approve all fiscal items as presented? Mr. Winters, may I have a second? Ms. Purdue, any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Winters.
Dr. Zerby or Kyle, can we have a confirmation that item 9E is written in a way that's appropriate?
9E was written by the bond council to be inserted here in the agenda. So I would concur that as it's written, if the board so chooses to proceed, should leave the language as it is.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Purdue?
Can you just explain when it comes to the meal pricing at the schools, can you explain how the increase is determined?
I don't actually do that calculation, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Certainly, that's under the purview of Ms. Steffi in the business office. But for the schools that are under the National School Lunch Program, there is a pricing tool, and the pricing tool is designed to allow you to not actually increase more than a certain number of cents in a given year, so that you're on target, the way I understand it, on target to make sure that you break even. The goal is to break even. You're not supposed to be making any money, and you certainly don't want to be losing any money. That's for K through 8. So all of those prices are, and that's for the student meals. Okay, that's not necessarily for the adult meals. So the adult meals are based on conversations with the vendor to make sure that we're staying in line with meeting our cost. And then for the high school, because we're not on the National School Lunch Program, that is based on a preview of revenue, also knowing that we can't increase things by $1. It would be way burdensome. But we had more flexibility on what we are charging at the high school than we do in the other buildings. I hope that's helpful, but generally for K-8, there's a tool that we have to use. For the high school, it was subject to our review and the fact that we are still in a deficit at the high school as a result of going off of that program. So while we're making progress in terms of reducing that deficit, we still run a deficit, specifically as a result of the free and reduced lunches that we and breakfast that we provide at the high school.
Okay, thank you. And do we have plans to provide, just because you brought up the high school, is there a plan to provide an update to how that is going? And I guess you indicate we're still running under a deficit. I thought based on when we started, we should be at the end of that now.
Yeah, we were estimating 2 to 3 years. So I can't, I'm hoping that we can offset that based on the adjustments of these prices, but it's not necessarily, I can't guarantee that. So what we can do is if the board so desires, we can certainly have Ms. Steffi and Aramark come forward to the board and just kind of give a review and give us a current status report as well as a historical report. Because at some point, I think it may be worthy as though our data is showing that we're serving more meals and we're serving more kids through the food program because the quality of the food is more consistent with what they may be able to get outside, rather than the strict quality control guidelines, salt/sugar guidelines for under the USDA. We still need to be cognizant of the deficit that we're running. So I'll make a point to have Ms. Steffi come before the board with an update on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, we'll go with Mr. Mursky first.
So I just comment on the last statement. I thought when we went through the budget process that we had made, when we were looking at the numbers, we had made progress in reducing the deficit, and the expectation was, and what we put in the budget, that by the end of this year, we'd be close to break even. That was the objective.
That's what we.
So, I mean,
yeah.
we have to see how the year goes.
Yeah,
But that's-
I know, and while I hope that these meal prices help offset that, and the sales increase and the a la carte helps offset that, I'm not 100% certain we're gonna get there. So we're gonna have to provide this presentation one way or another at some
But
point. So
my only point
sooner
is
rather
that
than later.
was a few months ago when we looked at this. That's what we were thinking, is that we would the objective was to be at break even by the end of the upcoming
was.
school year. and
No,
that-
no, absolutely.
So,
There's, I mean, there's certainly two break-even parts to this. There's the overall cost, and then there's the separated cost between what the guarantee provides us. So our vendor provides a guarantee that they won't lose money, but the fact that we subsidize through those sales, the free and reduced lunches, that's the loss that we're trying to recover faster than normal. So we may need to certainly evaluate that. And I think with Ms. Purdue's request to have Ms. Steffi come forward, we can do that and start paying more attention to that matter.
Yes, Ms. Cleary?
Just, sorry, tagging on to what you guys were just talking about. Is there anything preventing us from evaluating where we are on this deficit when breaking even mid-year? Or is it?
No, I think that's what we want to do. I think that's the whole point of bringing Ms. Steffi forward, because it's, we can certainly do this in September or October and then have another update probably in January and February. But what we have to do is, if, let's say, for example, we want to make a change, I'd have to check with Ms. Steffi, like, when can we actually make that change?
That was my question.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
was saying mid-year, if we're finding that we're still in a deficit, can we adjust
I don't think we
pricing?
can adjust. I think we're locked in for the year. So that's why I need to get the timeline and find out when do we have to make that decision, because we have to file certain forms with the USDA and let me get you that timeline. Let's work on that presentation early on in this school year. Let's get ahead of this. Make sense?
Yes, Ms. Sorry.
It's cool.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Thiel.
Just a quick request for that presentation from Ms. Steffi. If I would just be interested in historical data of the percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, just to see if we're growing or like what's happening with that population.
That's a good point, because if our population is going up, then that could be part of the dilemma. Good point.
Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Graff.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to clarify. So because the high school is not on the federal program, does that mean we still can only adjust prices at the high school once a year? Is there anything that, and you don't have to answer the
There's
question.
no,
I mean,
there's no reason we can't adjust the prices multiple times.
Okay.
We can adjust prices multiple times, but I can't go off. I can't
program
move
or
from
in-
the program and on and off the program.
Okay,
And again, that's my belief based on,
Okay.
I used to supervise this years ago, but I don't know all the rules off the
Right.
top of my head right now.
So I think, because I think that was the question that Miss Cleary was asking
Oh, I'm
was,
sorry.
could we
I'm sorry.
assess
I was
it
talking
and
about the
then adjust
program.
pricing
No,
for
we
the high
certainly
school
can.
program so we don't lose money in the high school for the rest of for the second half of the year?
Okay.
And my other question is, items 5 and 6, I see that the adult meal prices are the same at $4.85 at the elementary schools as well as Skyview Arcola, but the breakfast meal prices are different. Could we maybe just verify that those numbers are accurate? And it just seems strange to me that we wouldn't be charging the same adult breakfast price across the board. And maybe we're not.
I believe it's due to what we actually serve. And
Okay.
I think by levels, there is a allowable cost.
Okay.
that we
So,
can-
and it could be that the elementary school meals are different.
They
so
are.
that is why.
Absolutely different.
Okay, so thanks.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Okay, seeing none. All right, we already did the motion, right? We did the motion already, correct? Sorry. All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to personnel items.
Thank you, Madam President. For the consideration of the board this month, there are the following personnel items. There are 2 employments: professional Jenna Young, elementary instructor at Skyview, and Lauren Rufo, elementary instructor at Worcester, both for the 25-26 school year. We welcome Jenna and Lauren to the Methacton family. There are 4 employments classified: Erin Hilliard, part-time office assistant at Worcester, and 3 paraprofessionals: Caitlin Hopek at Arrowhead, Susanna McCord, and Donna Marie Brown at the high school, all for the 25-26 school year. We welcome Erin, Caitlin, Susanna, and Donna to the Methacton family. There are 3 changes of status classified. Rebecca Murphy from Benefits Specialist at Farina to Data Specialist at Farina. Kelly Gallagher from part-time office assistant at Skyview to full-time office assistant at Arcola, and Edna Evans from library assistant at the high school to secretary to the counseling office at the high school. We thank Rebecca, Kelly, and Cookie for taking on these roles. There is one uncompensated leave professional, Laura Ponicello, 3rd grade instructor at Eagleville for the dates listed, and supplemental contracts for the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Office, sponsors, the Pupil Services Office, and for a marching band director at Methacton High School. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great news. All right. So may I have a motion to approve all personnel items as presented? All right. Ms. Purdue, may I have a second? Ms. Steele, any comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Cleary?
Just a couple of questions. Dr. Sorgini, in 10I, is that a position for dealing with right to know, or is that completely separate? Ms. Murphy?
No, that is not right to know. Ms. Murphy will be dealing as our data specialist. That is generally our PIMS administrator, the statewide system.
Thank you. And then the other question I had is on 10M, number 2, all of the contracts for the sponsors. How many? It's a big number. How many sponsor contracts is that?
It's across all 7 school buildings. I don't know
Okay.
the specific number, but it is the clubs and sponsors for all of
For
the.
all schools?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Mr. Winters?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, and maybe Dr. Sorgini can comment. The 2 new employees that are making our goofy salary schedule starts at step 2, but bachelor step 2 is the lowest entry point for a teacher to come in. So I assume this individual is either coming from school or new into the education world. But the $61,000, 427, I think it puts us very, very competitive. And I don't know if you have any response towards the hiring that we're doing based on the contract changes we made several years. Are you seeing the fruits of this entry salary?
We certainly are. We are competitive in all of our categories now, Mr. Winters.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now move on to curriculum and programs.
Thank you, President Cancro. This evening, we have 2 items under curriculum and programs. 1, approve the educational services agreement and terms for student 320452 with special language in terms of the agreement drafted by the district solicitor. And 2, approve the educational services agreement and terms for student 290022 with special language in terms of the agreement drafted by the district solicitor. That ends the items.
All right. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve all items listed under curriculum and programs as presented? Ms. Cleary, may I have a second? Ms. Graff. Okay. Any comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to policy. Oh, there's nothing under policy. Now we'll move on to other. May I have a motion to approve all, sorry, Dr. Zerby, other.
I promise I won't read it all. Under 13C, transportation, to approve the transportation employee roster as provided, and then to approve the bus stops. These stops have been given to the board in advance, and they're not posted to the agenda for safety and security reasons. And 13D is a staffing service agreement to approve the staffing service agreement with Chester County IU to provide interim supervisor of special education services in the amount of $765.45 per day from July 21 through September 30th. If I'm correct, Dr. Sorgini, that's to replace a supervisor that's leaving us.
That is correct. We're in the process of replacing that individual. I anticipate that there will be someone on the August agenda. However, this person is serving as an interim in that time capacity.
And this is a standard rate for the IUs to charge for these types of services, correct?
That is correct. And we routinely contract with one or more of the IUs in the area.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve all items as listed under other as presented? Mr. Winters, may I have a second? Ms. Graff, any comments or questions?
I have a question? I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand and been called on. Fail.
Ms.
sorry.
Steele.
I have a question about 13D, and I don't know if it needs to be taken separately, so I have a question for Mr. Somers. I am a employee of the Chester County Intermediate Unit. Do I have to abstain?
I think the question would be if there's any ethics requirement in terms of your voting on this item. The Ethics Act requires that you abstain from any vote in which you would receive a private pecuniary or monetary benefit. I'm certain that that is not the case with this particular vote. So, my opinion would be that there is no need for you to abstain from this vote under the Ethics Act.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, Mrs. Purdue.
I also have a question for 13D, and I don't work for the CCIU, but I just want to confirm, so we have the dates here from the 21st through the 30th, but I know you're currently in the process for recruitment. The date here is just, you'll update it, right? I mean, this is based, I just wanted you to clarify that.
We certainly will, in one direction or the other, based on the start date of our finalist candidate. But we did go with September 30th, anticipating that if we could complete that project here in July, move forward potentially with a hiring letter that was authorized by the board at a previous meeting, we could start that clock, fully anticipating that a successful candidate working in another public school would have up to a 60-day hold. So that would take us through the end of September.
And then can I just clarify, in the event we have someone in, you're able to get a candidate in, the individual that's going to fill this position for the CCIU don't necessarily need to stay here to be employed by the district to serve as transition period, right?
That's correct. We would identify if there is any period of transition needed. Generally, we look at 2 to 3 days, and then we would move forward with the new candidate in the position.
Thank you.
Great, any other comments? Yes, Ms. Alston.
Given this last exchange, could we change the motion up to September 30th? Could we do that?
Dr. Surgini, is there any reason that would cause a challenge for us?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, if it's so.
I also have another question on the motion. July 21st then it's retroactive, or should it be the 22nd, or should it be a different date on the motion?
It is the 21st. So generally, I guess it would be retroactive.
Okay, and I'm
But-
fine with the 21st, but maybe if we could say up to, or up to including, I don't know, September 30th.
We just generally have not put in the word retroactive when it's a contract such as this. It's just from one period to the next period. That's why we didn't use the word retroactive.
Do that for employees, though.
Correct.
Yeah, all right.
Is there anyone not in favor for that change? Yes, Mr. Mursky.
So if the need were to arise that we needed to go beyond September 30th, does that create a problem if we change the language?
No, I would bring that back to the board and
So you
fully
just have to- we
anticipate
just have
doing
to
that
reapprove it.
to extend it. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
All right, great. So may all those in favor with the motion as with the change of up to and including? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Dates for board members' calendars. The upcoming board member meeting dates are listed on the agenda and also on the Methacton website. We'll now move to old business. Does anyone have old or new business? Yes. Ms. Graff.
Yeah, on the dates for the board members' calendars, I just want to make note that we are potentially going to do a property committee meeting in August. So that's not on the list. So just, sorry. I know, I'm really winning everybody's hearts over today.
But it's not on the
I
list
said-
because she used the
it's-
word
I
potentially.
said potentially. I didn't say
we-
for sure.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it because there's a couple of things we may need to go through and discuss. So if there is, we will add it and you will be notified. Just FYI.
Is that a voting item? No, I'm like,
No, but it will require us to place an ad in the paper. And
Okay.
we'll follow the standard procedure to do that. But in all fairness, given some of the timing here with some of the projects, it may be worth our while to have that meeting. So Ms. Graff and I will get back to the board leadership on whether or not we're going to do that.
sounds good. Ms. Purdue?
I just have a question. This is because we're still very heavy into summer vacation. In reference, just because we voted on the bus roster and the route, I just want to know, do we see any issues with the transportation routes? Just because I feel like there's always some renovation, construction, something planned that throws a wrench in our start of the school year.
Yeah, we haven't received, I think what you're referring to is we typically get notice that there's going to be a road or a bridge or something that's going to cause a challenge. I've not received any notice to date, okay? And I'm looking over to Dr. Sergini, who he hasn't either. But by all means, when Ms. Steffi returns from vacation, we'll have a meeting with her and Karen in transportation and determine whether or not we anticipate any potential challenges.
And the other thing, Ms. Alston?
And I guess along those lines, I'd be also interested to know about our bus driver situation, because I know it's varied as to how well it's been going with the
Yes,
amount.
so I think we can provide a report. Typically, there is a report to work day and then it's when we know when we're usually down. Sometimes they just decide not to show up that particular day and they say, yeah, I'm not coming back. And that's when we know the differential between what we have and what we don't have. So I'll get that information. We'll provide that as a timing mechanism to keep you apprised, and we'll communicate that in the memo.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we'll now move to courtesy of the floor. The Board of School Directors will now provide an opportunity for residents to make comment on matters that are or may be before the board. The board asks that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. The Board of School Directors may choose to respond to matters following the conclusion of the comments. You could also submit your questions via email at information@methacton.org.
Jim Alec, Worcester. I still don't accept your explanation about the bond situation. You're telling us the bond company told you to write something that contradicts their official document as the motion? Don't think so, Dave. It's not going to work. I may have to go outside of here to take care of it. It's not correct. Again, why read, send your questions and comments via email to, Methacton or information@methacton.org. And what I handed you is one of the reasons why we shouldn't even do it, because you don't read the emails. You delete them. I handed you 3 emails where it says you deleted questions. You, Ms. Chairman, and the Vice Chair, Ms. Purdue, deleted the questions that I asked the district without reading it. So why do I send anything to info@methacton.org when you guys aren't even reading it and you're deleting it? So you might want to look at that and maybe give me some kind of advice as to what I should do. So now we finally have a renovation plan. This is amazing. I sat at a Worcester Planning Commission meeting, and you guys said, "Oh, yeah, we got a renovation plan." You didn't have a renovation plan. We're going to see it in like a month. Why'd you deceive the public, mislead the public into thinking there was a plan? Oh, it's on the website. Oh, we can give it to you. You had zero. That's what's going on right now. That's what you got a timeline for. It makes no sense. Where is the public input piece on the timeline? It's like, oh, we'll just vote on it when? October? No, like public sessions? No, like presentation to the public so we can give you feedback? Oh, yeah, we're going to spend $100 million. Boom. It makes no sense to me. Pool. You guys want a new pool. All those options have new pool. You don't get a new pool because you couldn't take care of the old one. You neglected it since 2016. Water leaked 1,000 gallons a day down through the concrete. You want a new pool? No. Not until you give us a presentation about how the old pool was mismanaged and how you're not going to do it again with the new pool. Auditorium. A new auditorium, the capacity going to be the same? Absolutely ridiculous waste of money. Makes no sense. Why would you build an auditorium, a new one, the same size or smaller than the old one? You guys are ridiculous.
Thank you. Anyone else for a public comment?
Good evening. John Andrews, Lower Providence. This evening, again, we had the architect give presentations. And uniquely to this architect is a format for their slides, the public sheets that are presented, and then their copy is provided to the directors. The problem that I have seen continually with these slides is that they are white on black. That uses perhaps 10 times an order of magnitude of ink. And I think you ought to try black on white, which is conventional and economical. All right, relative to the renovation, it looks to me like there's going to be zero information provided to the public. And just this evening, Ms. Cancro suggested a postcard. I almost want to say that I'm violently opposed to that minuscule type of communication. Now, I think I'm talking about the value of a 10 or 20 page document that informs the public and solicits information from the public. The public is a valued and intelligent community. And the public also includes senior living facilities and businesses. It's not just people that live in single detached homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Seeing none, is there any comments or questions following this? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Graff, may I have a second? Ms. Purdue, motion adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.